right, here we are again. This is Sakimoto, and I've got Beastista here with me. This is VDL Season 6. I have to think really hard every time I say this. Season 6, Week 2 Power Rankings. This is the VDL V-Create Power Rankings. So, Week 2 matches were all played, and we're going to go over it and give you the new rankings.
Sounds good.
Alrighty, so we're going to try to make this a little quicker than last time because it was a little long for I'm sure everyone probably felt the same, but there's a lot of Pokemon to go over. So I guess we hop into the matches, and I'm suited to talk about this first one because it was my match. So Tyrant Tardisauces, which is me, I went against the Sussex Sableyes, the Saddle Squad, the Horse Team, and I got the 2-0. But to me, it did not feel as much like a 2-0 win. I think that this was a very close match, and it was kind of aching me. I don't really think I necessarily out-prepped Sam, to be honest. I think in Game 1, I actually got kind of lucky with the para on the Rapidash, which I did not. Well, I under-prepped for Rapidash immensely, and that kind of costed me a lot in the matchup. I did not EV my Raikou to outspeed it, so it was actually kind of a really stupid play on my part by doing that, but I got lucky with the para, and that helped me Game 1. And then, I can't. And then I think the next game.
I think game 2 was that the hard protect read that with the fungus that you expected the double up on the fungus protected, and it gave you completely a free turn to set up with Moltres.
Yes, and the reason I did that is I was trying to think. I didn't feel like I was in the best position, and I knew he had two psychic Pokemon in the field, right? And I figured he's not gonna. It's not one of those situations where he can just go into the Moltres, and if I Rage Powder, oh well, he goes into the Fungus. He can't target the Moltres because psychic, it's psychic immune. So I felt like it was pretty safe to go for that Protect compared to some other, other reads I could make in that situation. Because I didn't think he was going to go for the Play Rough into the Moltres. Because I don't think a Play Rough and a Psychic from the Gothitelle takes out Fungus, and he didn't want to risk that, double up and not even taking it down. Because that way I get a Nasty Plot up anyway. So I felt like it was a decent read, and I kind of decided to do it the last second, and it paid off. I think the flinches on the Glacier really hurt, but I think I had, unless his Gothitelle had Trick Room, I think I had that wrapped up anyway when I was thinking about endgame. Because I was Yachi, Moltres, and it was Citrus, Rapidash. So if the Rapidash was Jolly Nature, it's got like a 6% chance to OHKO me with a Play Rough. So, I mean, unless it got that, I think I was out. But the flinches kind of sealed it up. That was really hurtful. If I was Sam, I would be like, man, like a close game, and then you get double flinched, and you're just like, man,
Yeah.
I'm out of it.
Yeah, it was really really close game. However, on the Sableye side, I was definitely a couple of Pokemon that I was not expecting to kind of see much play and do anything were the Jigglypuff and the Rapidash, and both of them looked very impressive in this game. And that was one of the takeaways from their side, in addition to them playing well. But you definitely, had some tight plays and were able to just kind of get there, even though it was a lot closer than I feel like a lot of people were expecting going in.
I did. I was scared after Game 1. I did not feel super great, even though I picked up the first Game 1 win. And I think those horses are something to be scared of because Rapidash is just interesting, but like the two, Spectre Glacier, I calced a lot for them. But if you let them get a Nay boost, then that calc just disappears. It is invalidated. So it's really hard to calc against them. Like I calc the Fungus to live a non-damage item boosting Glacier, Icicle Crash, but if he gets a Chilling Nay, it doesn't matter going down. So that's something I didn't really account for and think about in the matchup. Like if you let them get kills, they can still steamroll even though it's not a max format. So, but honestly, I think it was well played by the Sableyes. I don't know what would have happened if I didn't get the para and the flinches exactly. So I'm lucky to pull away with it. But
Yeah, I definitely excited to see more of them in the upcoming weeks because even though they started off 0-2, they definitely started off with one of the more scary 0-2s if I would describe it as that, where I feel like they were definitely close in most of the matches they were played.
I agree. I would say he has a high threat level team, to be honest. So your match was next.
Yeah. This match was definitely very different than last week. So this is another really close 2-1 match where I just barely lost this time. And however, one of the things going into this match is I felt like this was probably one of the worst matchups compromised that I had because they had Primarina, Blaziken, two very fast bug Pokemon. And in addition, they also have like some other pretty powerful threats like Togedemaru, Krookodile, and it definitely like this had a lot of Pokemon that I really needed to prep with. And if I didn't prep for that Pokemon, they could easily sweep with that Pokemon. And I was able, to squeak out, game one win, game two win. Definitely did not go particularly well. I had a couple of, they kind of got in front of me, and then game three came down to, I would say, a couple of situations. But the big one was I decided to read a fake out into my Drapion. I protected. They doubled up into my Mandibuzz, one-shotting my Mandibuzz before I got a move off. And then even after that, I had a couple of outs where if I would have hit some crits with my Drapion, which has had choice, or which was using high crit moves and had the spec and the high crit item. I'm trying to draw a blank on it. And so I had a 50% chance to hit crits with my Drapion. And I had a couple situations where if I hit the 50-50, I think I could have gotten there. But I ended up, missing them when I really needed them and was just barely missed out on the game three. And so overall, like, I think it was, this is one of those matches going out. I definitely felt better about my team, even though I lost, than I did last week when I won. Yeah, and so that's kind of one of the things I found interesting about this week. So, what did you have any thoughts on my match?
I thought that was one of the best matches of the week. I thought it was so intense. What I really liked is just seeing what you had in store with the dark team, because I don't know. I thought it was a really tricky matchup for you. I thought Gert played really well, and I think I'm just going to say this now. I think Gert's team has been slightly underrated as far as like the previous rankings or opinions on his team. I can't remember where he was week 0. I want to say he was like 9th or the 10th or something, and I think his looking at his team, it's terrifying. I think it's a top 5 team, and I think he's played it well. I think game 1 he seemed like he was playing near perfectly, if not perfect, up until the point of the encore, and that's why. And I thought the encore tech was really nice in that situation because Blazikins like to go for the protect or the detect. And so I just thought it was such an interesting matchup because you'd completely turn the tide of the game with that move. Obviously something that's Gert can watch out for that. The rest of the set. Encore is one of those moves that can take you off guard and just absolutely ruin you. But I really liked it. And there are some moments where I'm like, man, Gert's playing this so well, but I'm rooting for this Drapion crit. This is so intense. Like, it could have gone either way at any moment, and that's why I like the matchup.
One of the really fun things about the match, which I think was kind of showed kind of how well me and Gert were playing in general, was that there's in the early game of game 1, they didn't really know about the encore. And so I got them with a encore on the Blaziken and completely invalidated the Blaziken. And the second game, they kind of started switching out after doing a fake out or doing a protect or doing things like that. And then game 3, I was in a situation where I made a couple of hard reads expecting switch outs and was able to get into an advantageous position because of that. And so we were in this really cool mind game where I was kind of doing hard reads on them switching out to my encore, and we were doing this couple of situations, and then like one turn I did it multiple turns in a row. I did an encore, and then I encored, and they stayed in, and we had a really cool mental game of, is he going to encore? Is he not going to encore? And is he going to switch out because they did a fake out or a protect, or are they going to stay in? And it ended up being really cool mental game because of that. And that's I thought it was a really fun match. And I think my biggest misplay was, I think in game 2 and 3 was my lead matchups. And I think that's kind of what ended up giving me the loss. Because I feel if I would have left Sableye, Drapion, any of the game 2 or game 3, I think I probably could have gotten there.
I agree, and that's one of those are the matches that are the most fun, where you're not even at a point where you understand what's optimal anymore. It's all about, how is my opponent playing? How can they play against this? I have to weigh their options, and assess what they've been doing and how they're playing to predict what they're going to do. Because my sets and my prep is not enough anymore because they know what I have, and it's like that mind game is so real, and that's when it gets real. That's a good game 3. That's when it gets juicy. Yeah, so I guess we'll move on. We got our matches out of the way. The Welsh Warlords, they beat the Drowsy Dracosults 2-1. If I only slightly remember this match. I was actually watching this one earlier today just to refresh myself with it.
I can kind of go over some of the
Yeah.
big things. So game one was like I think it was the pretty cool was the weakness policy on the Tapu Fini with a Giga Drain, or I can't remember. It might have been Giga Drain. It might have been a different grass move onto their own Tapu Fini with their Crobat, and got a really big damage output onto that, and kind of were able to get it to a pretty big advantageous situation. Game two was a really close match, and it ended up coming down to like a 50-50 protect. So what ended up happening was it was a Snorlax Palisand, and they had Tapu Fini, and I can't remember what the other Pokemon was, but basically they protected the Tapu Fini. Oh, and Darmanitan. So they protected the Tapu Fini, expecting an attack, and basically got red and they lost the Darmanitan and were able to barely lose. And then finally, game three, came down to it was a very hard fought match. There was a really big crit on Tapu Fini that had a Calm Mind boost that ended up getting killed before it was able to kill the Palisand, which then made it come down into a really tough endgame where there was only Buffalant left and Snorlax left, and the close combat into Buffalant, lowering its defenses and hardly surviving a body slam from the Snorlax. So there's definitely a lot of, it was a really close match. I definitely think the Warlords were probably in big favor game one and game three until the crit in game two. Game three, I mean. But it was definitely pretty interesting. The Warlords kind of were in the situation where the Amoonguss on the Dracozolt sides was completely useless because they had Misty Terrain, Goggle, Sap Sipper, and so their Amoonguss looked really bad, and they had a lot of like taunt, whirlwind from the Crobats and things like that kind of made it pretty difficult for them. And then both Snorlax and Steelix both had curses to kind of make their matchup pretty difficult in gaining their damage output. So that's kind of what happened. If hopefully that sparks some sort of thoughts or memories on the match for you.
I do remember it came down to some like tricky reads, not necessarily reads, but like you get to that point late in the match where it's like a 2v2 and you got to play those protect mind games. And I remember thinking, I don't know what happened with I remember the Buffalant came in clutch. I remember that. Was that what happened? Was that this week? I think it was.
Yeah, that was this week. That was last week or whatever. The week we're talking about.
Yeah, that was week 2.
Yeah. Buffalant clutched, survived a body slam from Snorlax in game 3 after getting a defense drop from a close combat.
I was so nervous about that. I was like, if I would have been sweating. I thought the Snorlax was going to take it, but it depends on the set. I know a lot of Snorlax like to run. Well, it depends. Like I don't think he wasn't running belly drum, but I know a lot of Snorlax like to go max like a lot of defense and HP, and then just rely on like curses and belly drums to boost their damage. I don't know. I don't know what the set was, but I remember that was really intense. And I go up against the Dracozolts in week 4, and their team. Like I remember like week 1 looking at their team and saying, straight Trick Room team. It's like essentially a mono strategy team, but it's not. It's really good, and he knows how to play it, and it's scary. And then the Warlords, I think they have a very versatile team. The Darmanitan's damage is disgusting. I forget how freaking damagey that thing is. and he's got a lot of speed on his team, and I don't know, just a lot of different tools. I thought that was one of the more fun matches to watch. Like, I don't want to take anything away from my match. I thought it was cool, but I thought like some of these other matches were just a little more fun to watch. I don't know. They were tricky.
It was definitely a good live premiere. I will say, like, I think it was a good premiere. It was fun to watch.
Absolutely, I think it was definitely deserving the premiere. Yeah, not much more to say about that from my side, but I do have a little bit to say about this next match. The Trixie Tricos. I love Trico, and I love the new logo and team. Versus the Somerville Scraggies. Or should they be called Somerville Stoutlands? Because they love the Stoutland. I know Tyler loves the Stoutland, and it's putting in work, honestly. He runs these offensive Stoutland sets, and they're sort of annoying. Like, because Stoutland, people forget Stoutland has, was it 110 base attack? And
yeah, and it's pretty bulky, too.
And all that fang coverage. It is pretty bulky. And you don't really know what it's running. And with the sand, it can run Sand Rush. It can also run Intimidate. I think it's a very good Pokemon. To be honest, I think it's a bit underrated. But Scraggies don't seem to think so. They pick it up whenever they can, and it did a lot of work. I remember, what was there? Was it a Thunderfang or Icefang Flinch or something?
Oh, yeah, no. So game one, I think, was the winner of the Serene Disgraced of the week, because Otto had 2 Gear Grind misses, was flinched by an Ice Fang, had an Axle Tree drop on the Muddy Water, and a crit on a +2 Grimmsnarl, which all led to their loss in game one. So it was definitely a large sequence of events that all led to the loss. And then in addition to that, if they would have clicked Drain Punch instead of Darkest Lariat on the last turn they got crit, they also probably could have even squeaked it out despite all of those bad luck occurring.
But I think Indeedee was on the field, right? So like ideally you go for Darkest Lariat, expecting the...
Well, yeah, so they went for Darkest Lariat instead of Drain Punch onto the Indeedee. However, because they were at +2 attack because of bulk up, both of them would have brought it to its focus set.
True. I guess...
So the reason... And so Otto actually said specifically what they were thinking. They did Darkest Lariat because they know Darkest Lariat ignores effects, but they thought it ignored its accuracy drop, but it only ignores like evasion boosts on the opponent's Pokemon. So that was the reason why they went for the Darkest Lariat.
Ah, okay. That makes sense then. I thought it was because of the typing, and he didn't know the DD was Sash. I felt bad for Kling Klang. There are so many times where I'm like, man, I feel like it'd go great on my team. I want to draft this thing, and then I think about its best steel move is that freaking Gear Grind, which it says it's like 85 accuracy, and I want to look into the log files of the game because I'm pretty sure it's like 44. And that thing misses every time. And it's so annoying, and you feel like, especially in a non-Dynamax format where you can't go for Max Steel Spike, you have to go for the grind. It's so frustrating, and it's hard to rely on that. Like, you can't really substitute for a weaker Steel move. I don't think it really has any that can utilize. So it's frustrating. If it wasn't for that, I think Kling Kling would be a lot better, like a much better Pokemon.
Definitely fair.
And that frustrated that and Draco Meteor. I'm pretty sure Draco Meteor has a 30% accuracy. I hate that move. I never run it. But yeah, I kind of felt bad. I really like the Grimmsnarl set though. I think the Scraggies team is something that's also a bit... I don't think it's underrated because I think we rated it pretty high, but I think it's a very scary team to go against, and he's hard to prep for. Same with the Tricos, and I really like that Grimmsnarl set. If I thought about drafting Grimmsnarl actually this season, if I got the chance, and I'm a big fan of that bulk up set. Besides, and Grimmsnarl actually has a decent amount of physical coverage and good attack stat. And you can always run like the Light Screen with it, like he did. Just boost up the physical or special defense as well. It's a Pokemon that can actually be extremely annoying if you don't have a counter for it with that set. So I really like that. Or I could run Spirit Break and lower their special defense while bulking up. It's kind of insane. I really like it.
Yeah, no, Grimstar definitely a pretty scary threat. And then yeah, I think so. Game two and game three after that unlucky game one on Otto's part, or lucky game one on Tyler's part. Game two, I think my biggest take was I think that the Neuborn was not particularly impressive on Scraggy's side. It kind of went in there, didn't do much work, and kind of they were able to focus on their partner, and the Tricos were able to kind of get a win. And the game three, the lead, which I think was Gengar Ndidi, with Ndidi having fake out, and was able to fake out the Thunderous, and was kind of, and I think able to, I think, get a one shot on turn one. It might have been turn two where they one shot a Grimmsnarl, and it was like a really big like advantageous position or start lead with that, and then after that, the Tricos were in a back foot for most of the game.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the calcs were because I think Otto was like debating what to select on that turn, and I don't know if if he puts a blight screen, maybe that sludge bomb doesn't OHKO, but that put him in really good position. And I remember seeing that, and the Gengar is kind of a tricky mon for the Grimmsnarl because the Grimmsnarl can easily one shot the Gengar, but the Gengar can one shot the Grimmsnarl depending on what they do, and the Gengar kind of has a speed advantage, but. Yeah, it was kind of a tough situation. I like seeing Gengar do good because I think it's a really cool Pokemon. It can be really strong, but I struggled to use it last season, so I'm glad it's putting in a little work. So Scraggies, I think they take what was an upset. Even though Scraggies do have a very strong team, the Tricos were rated number one last week, so that is an upset, and good job to the Scraggies.
Oh yeah, I definitely think the Scraggies were a little bit underrated after their week one loss, but I do, yeah, it was definitely an upset nonetheless.
And you could say there's some hacks, but ultimately, he pulled out the set, and you can't just hacks one game and get away with it. That's the nice part of it, best of threes. But yeah, so good job to the Scraggies, and honestly, the Tricos, they did not play bad by any means, and I don't think Otto really ever plays bad, to be honest. But I guess we'll move on to the next match, which is the Beantown Barnacles, right? Barnacles, yeah. Versus the Massachusetts Manitans, and they take the 2-0 win over the Manitans. Barnacles, that's Theo, right? The realist Theo, is that his name?
Yes.
Dude, I can't get enough of his thumbnails. If games were based off thumbnails, he'd be rank one. Dude, Mickey versus SpongeBob on the freaking. Everybody has these cool thumbnails, cool images of Pokemon. I scroll down to his. It's Mickey versus SpongeBob. I died, dude. I laughed so hard. I freaking love it. And then you get in game, and his Pokemon sprites are Chicken Nugget, Light Bulb, Cooler, Cigarette. It's the best. I just laugh.
It's always fun to guess what they are before they actually show the Pokemon. I definitely enjoy that because it's like Chicken Nugget. This gotta be Hitmonlee.
Because I don't know if he changed it from last week. At first, I was like, "This is a secret code. What's Chicken Nugget? Which Pokemon is that? Which Cigarette?" And then I was looking at his team. I was like, "I don't think this means anything. I think it's just images."
No, the Cigarette is Wheezing.
No, really? Wait.
Yeah.
Wait, it is a secret code? It's a secret Pokemon code?
Yeah.
Crap,
yeah,
dude.
they symbol, yeah, the light bulb is Tapu Koko. Mickey Mouse is Raichu.
Is it?
Yeah.
Wait, who's the Chicken Nugget?
It's Hitmonlee.
Wait, why is it? Oh, God, he does look like a Chicken Nugget. Why didn't I see that earlier? Oh, my God. Dude, I'm going to go out and get some Hitmonlees later. I'm hungry. Wait, and then the Cooler is...
Cooler's Glaceon, I believe.
Oh my gosh, dude. I can't believe I missed that. I literally looked at the symbols. I was like, this has to be a code. And then I looked at his team and I was like, nah. And now
some of them are because of what they look like. So basically, like Hitmonlee looks like a chicken nugget. That's what they. And then some of them are like based on what they do. So Wheezing, because it's like, gas and toxic. It's like a cigarette, and Glaceon because it's ice. And so it's always fun to guessing what they are before they show the team because they normally have that little thing on the side before they do the team preview. And so I enjoyed that the last two videos.
That was amazing. Oh, dude, now that makes me enjoy it even more. I just love it.
Okay, so I think we should probably get into the match then.
Yep. Well,
So,
yeah, you go for it. You talk about it.
so one thing I think was hilarious is that one of the things that the Binacles wanted to do was to be in electric terrain, but they also wanted to have wheezing on their side to nullify abilities. So one of the interesting things they did to go around that is to run electric terrain on their Tapu Koko, so that they could set up electric terrain even when wheezing was out neutralizing Gassy. And so I was really impressed with that because I thought it was a really cool synergy. Like it's a it seems like a disynergy, but they were able to kind of get around the disynergy with their move selection. Because the idea that they wanted wheezing so badly is because the Manitans are really like rain focused on average, and they have a lot of Pokemon that really are weak to electric moves, but they also have, I think, 2 or 3 lightning rod users. I know they have Seeking Pikachu. I think they had Togedemaru, but they might have traded that away. Well, I think they did. I think they had another one, but I know they have at least 2. And so they didn't want to deal with Lightning Rod, and so they brought their Weezing to deal with Lightning Rod. But they also wanted electric terrain so they could boost the electric moves, and I thought it was a really cool way to do it. And so Rising Voltage from Raichu in electric terrain, I think almost one-shot Regigigas. And another thing I think from last season, Regigigas coughing looked really bad. I was not impressed with it at all. Uh, and then yeah, and that and for the most part, it was kind of just kind of get into a position where Tapu Koko could do a lot of damage with electric moves while not having to worry about Lightning Rod from the opposing Pokemon because they had Weezing out paired with it.
And I think that was the main use of the Weezing, and I really like that. And I know there was moments when he swapped in the Weezing, trying to read in the Pikachu swap in, and it. I can't even remember if that actually happened, but I know that was the intention, and I really like that. I feel like it's hard to use the Weezing on his team because with the neutralizing gas because a lot of his Pokemon do benefit from their abilities. And I think he played game 1 was just really solid, and then game 2, I felt like he kind of gave up his Raichu. I feel like the Binacles kind of gave up their Raichu, or like unnecessarily in the very beginning. I think they had a free switch to Tapu Koko, but maybe they're trying to make a read, which I would totally respect. But it just went down to that leech life, and
Mm-hmm.
and then at that point it looked like just from watching Theo's video, he seemed like. He was like, "That's game. I'm out of it." And then he started to crawl back, and I really liked the moment where he took out the Toxicroak, and then he was like, "Wait, what happened?" Because because I resonate with that moment so much because there are a lot of times during a game where I'm trying to think out like 700 scenarios, like Doctor Strange, and then I miss what's right in front of me. There have been so many times where I'm like, "Wait, what's that item on that Pokemon?" And I saw it was Life Orb. I saw it, and I'm like wondering what it was because I missed things because I'm thinking about scenarios. I feel like that's what happened. It looks like that's what happened to Theo, and I laughed because I do that all the time. But so, he pulled it out at the end with the Tapu Koko versus the Kingdra. That accuracy drop from the Muddy Water was kind of their only way, the Manitans' only way out at the end, which like part of me was rooting for it and rooting for the clutch play and then the game 3. But Barnacles pulled it out. Yeah, I thought they're pretty solid. Anything else about about that match? Anything else to say?
No, that's about all. Like I said, my big takeaway is I definitely was impressed with kind of the Weezing, which seems like a very bad synergy with their own team being used in a really interesting, creative way, and then Regigigas being very unimpressive. Those were my big takeaways.
Yeah, yeah. Regigigas is the stoplight monster, is what I call him. I feel like part of me wants him to do good because he's so bad in non-max format. It's crazy how good he is in max format as compared to non-max format. Depending on I don't know if you've played against Regigigas Weezing, but if you don't have it's one of those things. If you don't have an answer for it in Dynamax format, you just get bopped. But there are lots of answers to it. Anyways, we're in Series 10. We're in 9-month Dynamax format, so let's talk about that in these games. Alexandria Arkanines versus the Rolled Gold Pretzels. I have quite a bit to say about this match, so I'm going to go for it, and then you can hop into it. I thought Game 1, I think, was the Poltergeist misplay. And to be honest, that is totally something I would do as well because it's not a move I use a lot, and I would totally not think about that, especially when you're trying to cover for other scenarios and your mind's there's a lot to it. Um, I think that shows a slight. It's not necessarily a weakness, but it is an interesting strategy because you can run Grassy Seed against the Rillaboom, boost your defense against the Golurk and the Rillaboom, and cover for the Poltergeist. It's kind of nasty, um, and I think that misplay really costed the Arcanines because I felt like they probably would have game. Actually, I think they would have won game one with that for sure if they didn't make that misplay.
Well, yeah,
Um,
game one, even after that misplay, was hardly won. It was one off of a lucky confusion on Gumi's end.
I do think Gumi actually made a misplay with the Rain Dance. I know he wanted to go for the 100% accuracy Hurricane, and I think he thought it was gonna it was gonna KO him. But if he just went for that double Hurricane, he had the game wrapped up. So Gumi's misplay actually gave Dan a chance. Although I think even without that misplay, even if Gumi played that perfectly, I was kind of wondering earlier when we were in the 2v2 with the Escab and the Galurk. I think if the Galurk goes for a Rock Slide a bit earlier and just removes the Tornadus from the equation, I think they can 2v1 that Garchomp pretty easily because its damage output was not a whole lot. It seemed like heavily invested in bulk. So I don't. That's really sad that he got that confusion. Like my heart would have been broken, but I think he had other ways to get out of that. Um, and then in
Well,
the
yeah. Well, I agree with that. I think the situation is like there's definitely ways that they could have got out of it, but sticking point was the okay, we got this. I win as long as I get to an attack off, and it's like oh they don't kill me with the hurricane, and then they kill themselves with the confusion caused by the hurricane.
and this
The
situation.
downside of no guard though.
Yes, true. Which, if you think about a set, high horsepower, what Poltergeist, Rock Slide, no guard probably does more, good for you than bad. But you never know. You never know. That kind of brings me to game three, which is so Dan wins game two, and I feel like it was pretty decisive victory. Excuse me. But game three is something else that's interesting because I think both of the games that Gumi won, he had slight misplays, like slight, that could have costed him, and he did not get punished for it. Like the Rain Dance game one, you know, he I don't think I think the double hurricane was the right play. I mean, you don't know that the Galurk has no guard, but I think you just kind of have to make that read that it does have it and go for the double hurricane instead of the Rain Dance and then the hurricane. But then but you got away with it with the confusion. Game three, there was an end game opportunity where Dan tried to make a read and go for I think the helping in protect Poltergeist or something on the Heracross. I can't remember. But the Heracross had Focus Sash, so it would have survived anyway. Now, I think if Dan would have set Trick Room there, while the Heracross protects, he wins the game. I think he wins the game there for sure. And so Gumi essentially tried to make a read going for the protect and gave Dan a way out, but Dan didn't take it because it was an extremely risky play. And he wouldn't have known that. Being that I believe the Heracross is Focus Sash, I think Gumi had essentially a guaranteed win condition if he just goes for the close combat there. I think. Because I think he did. I can't remember the situation. But anyways, he makes that massive read with the protect, which I think was risky on Gumi's end, but it was a massive read, and it kind of sealed up the game for him.
Well,
So
that's just Gumi in a nutshell. Like he he had he had a very good chance to win the game, but he's like, how about I do this hard read and make it a commanding victory instead.
but you know what?
And
Yeah, I was gonna say it's hard. It's hard to critique people on what plays they made when they won and they made they made plays that made them win. So, I mean, at the end of the day,
uh,
it was the best play he could have made. But I didn't.
well, yeah, like I definitely think that barring that pretty risky decision, I think they did Gumi and the Pretzels did really well in game three at realizing that they needed to save Heracross for the end game to be able to deal with some of the threats with close combats. And so they definitely saved it very well. So they could, after stalling out Trick Room, and that was definitely one of the big things I think was played well in the game three. But I know the big thing from the game was basically Gumi had no like actual Trick Room Pokemon or way to kind of do anything in Trick Room other than just hope that they don't get swept while in Trick Room. And they were not expecting Dan to go Trick Room focused at all. And I think that was kind of the what was very like surprising is that Gumi was able to get the win despite having no not prepped at all for the Trick Room mode.
I definitely think it's one of those matches that I was more excited to see this week. Just it's kind of an insane matchup. I know Arkanines go down 0-2. I still think they're one of the strongest teams in the league, just because it's another 1-2 loss for them. But like the wins are just within reach. Like they're so close. He was so close to those victories. And Gumi's just a wild player, and he makes those crazy plays, and that's what makes him hard to face. Because the players that have strong prep and strong teams, but play into exactly what you're expecting, are not going to be as strong. Gumi doesn't do that. Gumi will. There's always a chance Gumi's going to throw you off with something wild, and that's what makes him a good player, in my opinion. It's kind of something that bumps him up to a tier above himself. We're getting philosophical now.
Well, yeah, but also sometimes how he gets losses that he probably shouldn't.
Sometimes you got to go for it, though. That's the risk. That's the risk in that in that nature of play. The next match was, I think these are two good friends. The Royal Kingdras versus the Shenandoah Sun Warriors. The Kingdras go down 1-2 to the Shenandoah Sun Warriors, and I think according to the title of the Warriors, the Sun Warriors video, that I think they're good friends. And I don't know these people, but they had a great match, and I'm trying to remember exactly what happened. I remember these games being very close. Maybe you can spark.
Yeah, well, they were all really close. So the Kingdras decided to go hard Trick Room, and the Sun Warriors were apparently really concerned about fast Hell mode or fast Rain mode and Landers on the Kingdra side, and they didn't bring fast Hell, fast Rain or Landers at all, and so they were really surprised. And so basically, it was hard Trick Room, Reuniclus, Togepi. Every single game was, I think, the lead every single game on the Kingdra side, and I believe the Sun Warriors led War Turtle every game as well. And so it was fake out, and then they mixed up their support Pokemon. And so my takeaways from the game are a couple of things, but I know War Turtle was immensely impressive on the Sun Warrior side. It was so bulky. It did so much work with yawns, scalds, and fake out pressure. And I think that the Kingdras switched up too much. So they won game one pretty convincingly, I would say. And then they did not go back to the game one Pokemon and kind of switched up between game two and game three. And I feel like those switches hurt them in the end. And that if they would have kind of just stick with their game one game plan, I think they might have been able to get there.
I'm trying to remember all the Pokemon they brought. I remember the Nidoking being a big threat offensively, and I do remember that was the one takeaway from the matches. I remember thinking that War Turtle was debatably the MVP of that match. Actually, I don't even think debatably. I think for sure.
Oh, yeah, probably. The Sun Warriors brought the same four every game. It was Ninetales, Tapu Lele, War Turtle, Nidoking. And then the Kingdras brought Togepi, Reuniclus, Beartic every game, and then they switched out their third Pokemon at each of the three games, or their fourth Pokemon, which they brought Registeel game one, which was the MVP game one, and then they switched that to Pincurchin game two, which did very little, and then they switched it to Vulpix game three, which did absolutely nothing because they had Ninetales and they just reversed the weather.
I remember because it seemed like, according to the Pokemon that the Kingdras had, the Ninetales was a very, very important piece for the Sun Warriors. And I think he didn't do a good enough job preserving the Ninetales in game one, and that costed him. Because he really, that Registeel is a menace if it gets set up. So you really, really ideally want the Ninetales to launch off like a heat wave in the sun before the Registeel is able to set up. But that makes positioning really tricky because you got Trick Room and you got switch outs and all this stuff. But I think he did a much better, like, it was one of those battles where the positioning mattered a lot, and it was hard to foresee the end game, especially with like, the War Turtle being annoying and yawning, and then you have the Registeel wants to sit in there and get set up, and you want to be in the right position to stop him if he goes for that. I think the Sun Warriors did a great job of preventing that game 2 and 3. Yeah, I really like this matchup. I think it was one of those times where the Sun Warriors seemed to play really well. But that being said, I don't think the Kingdras played bad. I think they actually played great, and the Sun Warriors made the right calls and just had a game plan to stop him.
Yeah, and we didn't get to quite see the fun tech as much as we could have. They did Bright Powder, Snow Cloak, Beartic, and then Vulpix to set up the hill. And we saw a miss on the Beartic, which revealed it was Bright Powder at some point. And but they didn't really able to get Beartic in the hell at any point because of the Ninetales on the Sun Warriors side.
And that double evasion it can come in the clutch. Like one evasion drop, it's like, it's pretty good. But that double, like the Snow Cloak plus the Bright Powder, I believe that's what he ran.
Yes.
That can be brutal, and that can win you games, honestly. Sometimes it's just the answer you need, even though I guess you could say it's an RNG type of strat, but sometimes it's, if it's your best strat, then go for it. And like, I liked it. I thought it was a really cool set. Probably one of my favorite of the week.
And a lot of favorite of the weeks.
I do have a lot of favorite. I think, man, I think there are a lot of. There's a lot of just close matches this week. I don't know that there are any like super crazy techs that I was just blown away by, but there were some good techs all week. But I think just overall the matches were really good. Like we had a lot of good game 3 matches, a lot of mind games that had to be played, and a lot of matches where you didn't really know what was going to happen. Like there wasn't any games that I don't think that were won off of like a bad lead or a turn 1 or something like that. Except for one we'll get to later, and I'll reference that. But
okay. Well, let's get into some of the not 3-game matches coming up.
Yes, Pogging Portagons versus Rebellion. I watched this whole match twice, and I think I was in like work meetings or on like a work call during both the times I watched it, so I didn't even like absorb it all, even though I watched it twice. So I kind of feel bad. But I remember Lucian. He even acknowledged it in his video, but game 1. Kind of messed up, making a couple reads. He didn't go for the Electro Web when there was a Marowak switching incoming, and he knew that, and he kind of hit himself in the head, I think, or smoking his own boots, and that really hurt him. And then you can probably enlighten me on a lot of more of this match, but I remember that really costed him. And the matches were still close, and then I remember in game, what is it?
Yeah, I think one of the big things that kind of ended up happening was Marowak was just really difficult
to take down.
Yeah, for Rebellion to deal with, because Thwacky doesn't have the best damage output in comparison to like Rillaboom, even though Rebellion swears that Thwacky's just as good as Rillaboom. I definitely think that Marowak kind of had a favorable matchup in Trick Room, has a favorable matchup against their entire team, and that's kind of where the problem lies. And not only is it a favorable matchup against their team, it also completely invalidates Regieleki because of Lightning Rod. And so they got into a lot of like game 2. They got into in game where Regieleki literally did nothing because Rebellion felt that they needed to click Thunderbolt, I think, or maybe it was Electro Ball, whatever, a single target electric move. They felt like they needed to do it to get a kill, and they switched to Marowak, and Marowak absorbed it, and then now Regieleki can't do anything because I think it was Choice Spexed.
I think it was.
Yeah. Yes.
Yep.
And so then, and then they got a kill, and now Regieleki was stuck out, literally not being able to do anything as long as Marowak is out, and now it's a one Pokemon is completely useless against 2 Pokemons on the other team on the other side of the field.
I, f-
But yeah. Oh yes.
I was gonna say I forget all the mons that were. What was it? A special Archeop set? I think it was.
Yes, it was spectral. It was power herb, meteor beam, Archeops,
I remember.
and Beheum also is power meteor beam.
Oh, the yeah,
uh,
the Behemoth, yeah, and that
yeah,
I think he went for two of them, and like at that point your special attacks just is doubled, and that's really nice. But I remember that Arcaps going for a meteor beam and it not KOing something. I think it was like, and I was surprised by it, but I can't remember exactly which mon it was. I think it was like a super
I
effective hit too.
I don't think it was super. I think it was. I think they did a meteor beam into the Beheum, and the Beheum survived. I don't think it was the only. It might have been the Togepi, but if I remember correctly, I think it was the
It
Beheum.
was something.
Because yeah, the Porygons both games brought the same four Pokemon, which is Lycanroc, Behemoth, Marowak, and Togetic. And so it might have been Togetic,
No, it
but I
was
don't.
no. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty positive it was Togetic. I'm pretty sure he meteor beamed it in
Okay.
Togetic and it didn't Oko, and that really surprised me because that's a +1 Archeops, which is not. It's honestly not that specially weak. Like I think it's like 110,
Hmm.
like special attack. So that surprised me. But that's a freaking bulky Eviolite Togetic. I don't know what the set was, but
Yeah.
it worked.
Oh yeah. And then yeah, but the Archeops was a little bit awkward because it kind of was in a situation where Lycanroc had the priority Excel Rock, and that
Yeah,
broke it.
yeah.
That did over half of its health, and so it couldn't get it got the fetus activated at a +1 priority, and so it was really awkward because of that kind of situation. And then Trick Room kind of did a lot of work as well because um, Rebellion's Pokemon were pretty fast.
Yeah, yeah. Archeops is hard to deal with when you got those Pokemon because you have like Ice Shard, Aqua Jet, XL Rock, all super effective against it. Sucker Punch is a pretty strong move, can also lower it to half. It really cripples that Pokemon's potential. I feel like I remember also. It's such like a hazy memory for me in this match, but I feel like Rebellion was going for these like last ditch efforts with the Tri Attack with the Blissey. Um,
Oh no, 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 no! You're thinking about a different game.
okay,
I'll, I'll just say a different
is that
game.
future sight? Okay, never mind.
Yeah, this is Future Sight.
We'll edit that out. Yeah,
Yeah, they did not bring Bushy this week.
man, dude, I'm glad you're here to freaking, you know. I feel like my memory is a
Yeah.
78-year-old memory.
No, see, it's hard. It's hard when we do these power rankings a little bit late into the week. That's why one of the reasons why I try to push them out a little bit earlier, so that we don't kind of get into the situation where we forget what happens or we're biased our opinions based on what happens in the next week.
Agreed. So the Pogging Porygons up 2-0, looking pretty good. A newcomer in the league, player I've never heard of, never seen play. They look good so far, and I'd say keep it
Yeah.
up and love it. This next match is the one I mainly want to reference as I think this was a match that was won on turn one of game one when they just went for the helping hand, sacred fire choice band into the Metagross. The Metagross didn't protect, didn't do anything. It just got obliterated. And at that point, I think there might have been a way out for the Darmanitans, but like the Blazikins just looked so good. They looked in a commanding lead there. I mean, that's exactly what you want out of a turn one. I thought the Choice Band Entei was a really, really nice set. I thought it made a lot of sense, and I struggle to use Choice Band or Choice Specs. They're items I'd like to use, but I struggle to build sets with those items that feel like they'll work. And so I was really impressed with how the Blazikins used that. The Clefable Entei lead, something that's really, really tricky because you can always go for that helping hand attack with Entei because it can't be faked out. Really liked the gameplay on the Blazikins end. I think game two is closer. Game two is very close. Actually, in fact, I think I was confused because the Darmanitans probably could have slack off PP stalled the
Yeah, yeah.
Blazikins Leaf Storm, but
Game two was really weird ending, and Calypsia never really mentioned it in chat, and I'm curious of what was happening. But yeah, so what ended up happening was Rotom was choice scarfed, or choice scarfed, I believe, and they ended up feeling the need to choice scarf themselves into Leaf Storm in order to kill Rotom Frost, Rotom Frost. And so what ended up happening was it came down to an end game with Rotom Mo against Hippowdon. But Hippowdon's only damaging move was ground coverage, and so there's no way that Rotom could or that Hippowdon could kill Rotom with physical damage. However, because it was choice scarfed, Rotom only had 7 PP left of the move that was lowering its special attack every time it used it, and Hippowdon had slack off to increase it or to heal up. And so basically, if the Manitans clicked a single slack off, they probably would have PP stalled Rotom out of its move, and then Rotom would have struggled and probably lost the game unless they got a crit. And so basically, the game came down to like, can 6 attacks going to get a crit or not? And instead, Calypso just kind of chose not to do that and just click Earthquakes that did literally nothing. And so I don't know if they didn't know it was Choice Scarf or if it was something else, but it was definitely a strange ending of the game.
Now, is Slack Off, is that a 5 or 8 PP move, or is that more?
I think
remember.
I think it's a 10 PP move.
Because if it's 10, he definitely wins that. But the thing is that Hippowdon's not going to struggle, so it's still not going to have enough. Yeah, if it's
it's 10 PP. But even if it was like they said, I don't even think you needed a PP stall because of the special attack drops on Rotom. It just needed a single slack off, and then I think they would have got there.
Yeah, I think they had it. I think even if they go for like a slack off and then a stockpile and then a slack off, they just stall him and the Rotom dies from sand and struggles. So, I don't know. But maybe he didn't know that, or maybe he said, you know what, I'm going to bow my head. I feel like I got outplayed, and I'll just accept my fate. I don't know. But
yeah, but also it is a little bit awkward that they kind of picked a Hippowdon set that couldn't touch the Rotom, and they don't have the best way to deal with Rotom per se, because a lot of their Rotomancers are pretty like easily dealt with by the Blaziken's team. But in that end game, I think the Blazikens might have been able to Shadow Ball instead of Leaf Storm, and that might have kind of gotten rid of the possibility of the PP stalling. But definitely a strange ending.
yeah, no, but I one of the sets I want to mention too is the special Metagross set, which I thought was really cool. I thought it was really cool because you got that Meteor Beam to boost your special attack, and then all of a sudden you're a special attack and Fiend with the Psychic. I don't know if it gets Flash Cannon, probably does. I thought it was a really cool set. I really enjoyed that, and maybe it lives a non-choice band Sacred Fire, and then it gets burned, and then you're like, you're crippled, and then it goes for a Meteor Beam and says, haha, you stink. But
yeah, that's fair. That's my guess of what happened, and that was probably the justification behind the turn 1 in game 1, which was, I'm guaranteed to survive an adamant Sacred Fire from Inte, so I'm just gonna Meteor Beam because Meteor Beam almost always kills, and then Choice Band was the difference.
Yeah, it could have
or
been
Helping Hand was the difference. One of the two.
Could have been a big read. I don't know. But yeah, good win by the Blazikens. They're 2-0, I believe, and really well played. Really intense match too. Very fun to watch. The next game, the Mimikyus versus the Suffolk Suicune. This one was not a close match.
Yeah, definitely not.
It was not, and I think I don't know. I just the Mimikyus are, from what I know, that's Yasha, right? Yasha. From what I've heard, he's a very good player. And he just looked really good. Like he felt like he had a game plan. He knew what he was going to do. He kind of got rid of the Urshifu, and then just Chandelure was a monster. Chandelure was insane in this matchup, and getting rid of the Urshifu will free it up. So that's kind of what the game plan seemed like it was. Free it up, and then you can go for sun stuff potentially. The Exeggutor is annoying with the Harvest, and the Citrus Berry, I believe, is what it had.
Well, like the big one that you can kind of see if you look at the Pokemon that were brought, it was the Exeggutor, Starmie, Whimsicott, and Chandelure were brought by the Mimikyus both games, and 3 of those Pokemon resist water coverage on the Urshifu, and one of them 4 times resists it. And so the idea is like Chandelure is a really good lead because it can't be faked out, and it does really good damage into every Pokemon on the Suicune side except for Urshifu. Well, kind of. It can do pretty good damage in Urshifu because I think it had Energy Ball, but it does. But like that's the thing is like it does do pretty good damage into everything, and without Urshifu, Heat Wave just does really good damage and like 2 shots pretty much their entire team. And yeah, and then they also have a pretty clean switch in to any of the Pokemon in their back with the Urshifu.
I really like their
Or
game
with
plan, and I didn't even think about that until now. But they had three Pokemon that matched up really, really well into the Urshifu, and then they had the Chandelure, which matched up well into the rest of the team. And Chandelure is not a Pokemon you can ignore. If you let that thing get, like, launch off moves, it's just gonna do so much damage. I'm a really, really big fan of it. Actually, it's what I first started playing VGC and with Sword and Shield, like ranked battles with when Durant was meta. I know it's sort of a tangent, but when Durant was meta, like early in Sword and Shield, I ran Scarf Chandelure all the time, and I just like Heat Wave, just Oko Dynamax Durants, and then they die without getting a move off, and they just quit the game. I loved it. I'm a huge fan of that set. I think Scarf Chandelure's underrated. You could probably just message your opponent every week and say, "Hey, I'm bringing Scarf Chandelure," and like they still won't be. They'll still have a hard time dealing with it. Um, but I thought the play and the strategy from the Mimikyus, it just looked all around really, really good. And the Suicune didn't really have an answer for it. But Toots is one of those.
well, I was gonna say like the thing is like the Suicunes didn't look like they made any misplays. They just
Yeah,
looked
yeah, agreed.
like they had no way to deal with anything that was happening. And so I don't know if it was a problem in like they misinterpreted what they thought the Mimikyus were going to bring, or if they didn't have answers to the Pokemon that they brought, and they need to. And I know the Suicunes made some trades after this match because they felt like they lost so badly, and so I don't know if those would have helped or not, but like I definitely felt like it kind of just felt like hopeless, even though the Suicunes were playing well.
I would agree with that. I think the Mimikyus played their game correctly, and they played it like their strategy was really good, their prep was really good, and I think I agree with you. I think there were a lot of situations where Toots just didn't have a way out just because of what he brought and yeah, and how the Mimikyus were playing. Toots, I feel like Toots is the kind of player like he'll take this loss and he'll get back to the drawing board and he'll come back next week and beat the top team. Like he can. I feel like that's just the player that Toots is because he's capable of coming up with, you know, skill swap no guard strats that can wipe you if you don't watch out for him. And you can only combat that if you're lucky. But yeah, big win for the Mimikyus. Well done. I guess we'll move on to the next game, which was the Georgia Gurchins versus the South Croydon Soars. This one was, I think it was game one where the Gurchins won with like a Torracat with like 14 HP or something.
No, I think that was game two.
That was game two. That was intense.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe they won that. Like, and here's what I'll say about that game two. I didn't think they were going to win that because I forgot about the icy wind drop on the Pheromosa, and that was a really tricky end game for the Gurchins. If the Gurchins planned that out, if the Gurchins strategically placed themselves so they had that Torracat in the back, which could heat wave the Pheromosa after a -1 defense drop, which I think you have to be near max speed, like Jolly or Timid with Torracat to outspeed. I think that was very good strategy and very good play for them to, if they foresaw that end game and planned that out. I thought that was awesome. If they just got lucky, well, and it just worked out that way, then I mean, good job for them, anyways. I thought the Torracat actually put in a lot of work, especially since I believe the Croydon Soars wanted to set up Sun, so the Heat Wave was a really nice bring. It was kind of an interesting battle because you had like, double prankster weather, I think. Yeah. Did the Meowstic have a weather tech move?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it did.
I want to say I had Rain Dance, but I could be wrong. Maybe it didn't. But then again, why would he go for? I don't know. I just remember thinking that both teams can benefit in certain ways from weather, and they both have prankster mons, and it makes it a tricky matchup.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no. The game was definitely a very strange game. Like I don't know. Like it was one of those matches that I left going like I don't know if there was major misplays or not. Like I feel like the SARS could have won the game, but I couldn't think of a point in which like specific point that like led it to that, you know? And like the same with the Gurchins. It's like I feel like every point like I'm like it was really weird. I think the big one game three, the SARS brought double blade, which I don't agree with because game two, the Torracat was the MVP on the Gurchin side. And so double blade is a physical attacker that gets intimidated by Torracat and also has bad special defense, which Torracat was a special attacker, and is also weak to fire. And so I don't know why they decided to bring Doubleade after Torclat was clearly the MVP in game two, getting 2 kills and being, and was the, getting 3 kills. I think he got a
I
burn
agree.
kill as well. And so I don't know why they decided to bring the Doubleade, especially because they didn't have Trick Room. And so it seems like a really awkward bring after, how well the Torracat specifically did, which is an amazing matchup against that. I don't know, the Pheromosa, like kind of like I said, it felt very weird because I can't point at a specific position, but I feel like there was multiple points in which the SARS could have won, but I can't. I felt like they were at advantage, and I don't know if it was like a good play that because like that's the thing is I don't remember I couldn't point out a specific good play or specific bad play on either side, but I felt like the SARS were advantaged at multiple points and could have won the set, but I don't know how they didn't. If that makes any
That's
sense.
how I feel. I feel like a lot of positions they're in a commanding lead, and then all of a sudden the momentum would shift with like a couple crazy plays, and I totally didn't see it coming. Like I'm not watching the Gurchins gameplay and saying like, oh, that's your way out. Like I was just thinking, oh man, this is so close, and I don't think they'd have a way out, and then somehow they'd squeak it. Like it was, I mean, it was a really weird match. I don't know. I don't even know why, but
Yeah,
it felt
I
weird.
agree with that.
It felt like such a hyper, like just like
It's very swingy, but
very swingy, but very like very fast gameplay at times. Like one would just go blazing ahead, and then all of a sudden the momentum would shift, and they would blaze back really hard. And then it was not like this soft teetering battle of tug of war. It was like big shifts in momentum, which was
yeah,
made for a really good match. And the Gurchins, I think they're 2-0 now, and they're looking good.
yes,
But honestly, the South Croydon Soars, I think well played. I think they don't deserve to be knocked too much in the power rankings because of that loss. I think they played well. But I do agree with the double A played. I thought the double A maybe it was a read, but I thought it was weird to bring against Torcat. So I guess we'll move on to our last game. We got LA Infernapes against the Bolton Bashers. You want to start off talking about this match?
yeah. So I guess the kind of the big one was the main strategy I think on the Infernope's way to kind of deal with the Boltons was Cottony. They had Cotton Spore to lower their speed, and then Sunny Day to get rid of the Hell, and that was kind of their main game plan. The kind of the awkward part of it specifically is that it make Cotton Spore increases the attack of Zapdos because of Defiant, and also can get one shot by Defiant because they decided instead of running Focus Sash or even Eevee Light to run what's it called? The item that deals damage, Rocky Helmet.
Mm-hmm.
And so Zapdos is a clean one shot onto the Cottony. And so it was kind of a little bit awkward in that situation where Cottony was kind of such an important part of counteracting Goomer's game plan, but also didn't have really a way to defend itself and was easily one shot by not only the Zapdos but also like any ice move from the two ice Pokemon brought by the Bashers.
At at first, when I watched this game, I watched it from Goomer's side, and I thought it was a pretty decisive win, like a pretty decisive 2-0. I felt like Goomer played well. There were a couple things he said that he were unsafe plays that he got away with, and I agree. I think the Bash it just kind of looked like it was a more dominant win until I watched the Los Angeles Fernapes match, and I sort of got to see this match from their side, and I got to see it again and think about some things. I think the Infernapes went down 0-2 against one of the better teams in the league, but I don't think they played that bad. there were some interesting things that happened that I think they got a little unlucky with. Game one, um, I think so. He sort of had a free switch into the Dragapult, assuming that the Zapdos was gonna, Thunderous kick into him. Now, something that's interesting is that since he went for that Cotton Spore, he wasn't able to pick up on the fact that the Zapdos was scarfed. Game one.
Oh yeah.
And he didn't make that switch and let himself go down. And I think that might have been a misplay that led to his loss game one. He also could have made a couple reads, like he could have tried to make. I know he talked about making the Iron Head read for the Ninetale switch in, and I think he was tempted, but he never ended up going for it, and that would have been kind of an insane read. So Goomer pulls out game one with, the boosted Zapdos, and I think the Swampert was good, and the Dragazult was really good. Just well played, and I think that core of 4 for Goomer is really strong. But game two, what was interesting is because he Cotton Spored game one, because the Infernape's Cotton Spored game one, they still didn't know the Zapdos' item, and that caused them late game to make some plays that they probably could have avoided if they knew the Zapdos was scarfed. So it was sort of unfortunate for them, and I think they could have actually made plays or made some reads that could have won them a game or even the set, but they weren't able to go for it because they didn't know the Goomer sets, and I think Goomer played really well, but I don't think the Infernals were that. I don't think their play was all that bad. And like knowing that the Zapdos is scarfed, it's locked into either Brave Bird or Thunderous Kick, and you can make an assessment from there. Like if it's locked into Thunderous Kick, then you can safely switch into Dragapult, more often, things like that. I think he didn't get enough information soon enough, and by the time he went down 0-2, he was like, man, I could have played that differently. That's how I had been feeling. But I don't think his prep was bad, and I don't think his play was necessarily that bad. There were a couple moments where, like, I think he iron-headed instead of close combating the Dragazult, or not. I keep saying Dragazult. It's Arctazult, and he let it live. But honestly, I wouldn't feel too bad about that loss if I were the Infernames. I don't think they played that bad.
I think they played well. And again, like this is literally the 24th ranked against the second ranked team from last week's power rankings, and like obviously it was an 0-2 loss, but I definitely think there were some points that they definitely could have won a game, and if they win one of the two games, they definitely have the opportunity to win the match. I agree. Like I think they played well. Like I said, I think like I said, I was a little bit surprised with the item on the Cottonee, like I said, because I feel like the Cottonee was one of the big linchpins of their team composition this week to overcome the bashers. But in the same sense, I guess it makes sense because like focus sash is not that helpful if hell comes up, for example, and things like that. So I can definitely see the idea behind it, even with that,
Absolutely. So I guess we'll see what they have for next week. So I guess that's all the matches. We're going to try to hop through and go through the top 24 teams, maybe a little quicker than last time. Do you want to just alternate on these?
Well, yeah, I think that's fair.
Or we could just go through. We could just go through them together and just go quickly.
Yeah, we can do them pretty quick. Like, for example, let's start at 24th.
Yeah. Okay. 24. We got the LA Infernape. I'll start off with this one. I think they're an 0-2 team. They're untested. We don't know how they play. They had, I think, a bad loss week 1. Honestly, they went down to Goomer week 2. I don't think their play was that bad. I don't expect this team to, like, I expect this team to pick up some wins. Like, I don't think their prep is that bad. I don't think their play was even that bad. I think they could have made some reads and they just weren't sure about it. And there's some other plays that they just got unlucky with, like what I talked about with the Cotton Spore, but and they didn't know the Zapdos item. But I think, I know you're the lowest ranked, but I honestly wouldn't feel too bad because I don't think the gameplay and the prep is that bad. So I guess we'll see what they have for in the future.
They're 24th because they were 24th last week and they lost. It's kind of it's kind of hard to go move up too much, if any, after an 0-2 loss. But I definitely think that they have some kick. But
you know what? Yeah, I agree. They have some kick and their logo's badass, and I like being ranked low because people didn't underestimate me. So, we'll see what they got. Let's go on to 23. We got the Massachusetts Manitans. They were also a team that's 0-2 with a -4. We just kind of had to put them down here. They got an early kill game 2 against the Barnacles, and it set them in a pretty good position, but they still couldn't pull out the game 2. Just another one of those teams where like I don't think their team's bad. I don't think the coach is bad by any means, but they just happened to be 0-2 with a -4, so we just kind of had to put them down here.
Yep.
Fair enough. Yeah, their team is actually super cool looking at it. I don't know. Coughing Reggie is coughing. We'll see. We'll see what he has in store with it.
Yeah.
But 22. 22, we got Toots. Toots took a bad loss this week, another 0-2 -4 team. Just didn't have an answer this week. It's hard to justify that loss. You know, you had a loss week 1, and then you just kind of get blown out week 2. So we had to put him down here. Sorry, Toots. One of the few Dans in the league. We love our Dans. And
I think they also kind of realize that they're having some problems with their team. I think they made 2 or 3 trades after this match, and hopefully with those trades and some kind of refocus, they can kind of get into a good couple of wins after this.
Agreed. Let's move on. Number 21, we got the Royal Kingdras, which I don't think are playing that bad, but they are 0-2. I think they know how to play their team. They have a Palper Rain with the Registeel. It's a weird team that I don't think everybody could utilize to their full potential, but this team, he seems to play pretty well. He just unfortunately hasn't squeaked out the set, so he's 0-2.
Yeah, and I definitely think they had a chance to get here this week, and I think they even had a pretty good set last week, and that's one of the reasons why they're a little higher, even though they're 0-2. I think with a little bit of little bit more favorable luck or a slight difference in prep, they definitely could have easily been 2-2 this week, or 2-0 already.
Agreed, absolutely agree. I'm excited to see what they can do in the future. Let's see. Number 20, we've got the Sussex Sableyes, another 0-2 team. They're actually -4. They were actually ranked higher than the Kingdras. I know they're 0-2 with a -4. They haven't taken a game yet, but they don't look bad. And I think their team is actually a little bit underrated from what I initially thought. I looked at this team, I was like, yeah, a bunch of horses. It's a meme team, but they're actually kind of hard to prep for. And they have an interesting team. They've got some tools like Fake Out. They have Eviolite users. They have, I think, Crawdont's a really interesting Pokemon. And then, like I said, those Nay boosts can throw off your calcs, like those horse boosts. And I don't know. It's I don't expect the Sableyes to continue losing, to be honest. I think they're going to pull out at least a few wins.
Well, yeah, one of the I think noteworthy things is that they actually went up, I think, 2 spots in their power ranking, even though they went 0-2, or they lost 2-0 this week. And it just kind of shows how both of their weeks, even though they're both 2 losses, they definitely had a lot of close matches, and even though they lost all of them, and they've been in situations where they kind of their opponents needed to make good reads or really good plays to be able to get the win.
I agree. This team was actually tough to face, and I sort of agree with the comment you had earlier in the video, which is I didn't feel as good against this team as I did against you last week. Like, I felt better in my loss than I did in this victory of the Sableyes. Like, I just feel like I sort of got a bit lucky with a couple reads and a couple haxes maybe, and kind of just ended up squeaking it out. But we'll see what the Sableyes can do, the Scary Saddle Squad. I like this team. All right, moving on. Number 19, Norwegian Manitans. Kind of unexpected because they've been one of the titans of the VDL, but they're 0-2 this season, unfortunately. I still think they have one of the coolest teams. I think they struggle with a lot of these mid-speed tier Pokemon. And unfortunately, like, the really cool Metagross set just didn't work out this week against the Entei, which is like such a bad matchup in my opinion. But I guess we'll have to see what they pull out in week 3.
Oh yeah, like I think the big one is there definitely a couple of situations in which it seems like they could have been either they had bad leads and or had maybe questionable plays that kind of led to the loss, and there's definitely a good chance that they could have won if they protect Metagross turn 1 in game 1, or they click slack off game 2, and so that's kind of one of the reasons why I think they're a little bit lower, because they were very high ranked in the beginning, and then they're pretty low now, even though because they're 0-2 and kind of had maybe could have had a little bit cleaner play.
Agreed, but we know what the Manitans can do, so yeah, I guess we'll see what they do moving forward and see what spicy tech they have. Because if they're not afraid to use special meter gloss, then they know how to make they know how to approach a matchup and make a wild set that can work.
Yeah.
So next is number 18. This is Drowsy Drakezolds, the Trick Room team.
So I want to comment on
go
this.
for it.
I think that our council underrated this team notably. I put them I think 4 to 5 spots higher than this on my personal part of it. I think they had a really close match against against the Warlords, and I think that they should be very significantly closer in the ranking with the Warlords than they are. I was very impressed with their game 1 or their week 1 win, and then this week I think literally I'd say probably a damage roll between winning it. Even though they got a little bit of luck with the crit, I definitely was impressed with their gameplay and their team so far in the first 2 weeks.
I would agree with that, actually. I think this team has been severely underrated, and what I will say is I think the council and probably some other players in the league might be a little skeptical of this team in the same way they are of your team, where you're probably going to be ranked lower than maybe you deserve because your team is a monotype team. It's never going to be ranked as high as a team. It's easy to be skeptical about it, and I think this team falls into that same curse where it looks like just a straightforward tunnel vision trick room team that gets it gets knocked down a few ranks because of that, and people are skeptical about what you can do with a straight a complete trick room team. But I don't even think this is a straight complete trick room team. I think they have tools that make it not a trick room team, but strictly so. It's a little hard to rank this team, I'm not gonna lie, but they played well, and I'm interested to see what they do because this is a really fun team, and hope the Sandcastle can do some really cool things because everybody loves Sandcastle. Okay, number 17, we've got the Shenandoah Sun Warriors. Didn't look super great week 1 against Rebellion, but everybody needs that Rebellion tri-attack crap to rock their world, at some point. They played really well this week, and I think they approached the game 3, the best of 3, really, really well. I think they made adjustments. I think they positioned really well. The War Turtle set was amazing. I liked what they've done. Unfortunately, they're just 1-1 with a -1 record, and so I guess they're just sitting at 17 so far.
Well, yeah, they didn't have a commanding win this week, and then their loss looked pretty bad week 1. I think they definitely showed some really good skill in how the first match they kind of lost pretty bad. First game they lost pretty bad, and then game 2 they just barely won, and then game 3 they won pretty convincingly, and so it definitely kind of showed how the opponent bled and brought something that they didn't expect, and they were able to kind of pick up on what they did and adjust in middle of the game, which shows skill.
I agree. Sometimes a close matchup where you can adjust and kind of learn from the matchup and win out in that game 3 scenario is more impressive than that dominant 2-0 win sometimes. I think this might be one of those scenarios, but well done. Excited to see what they come up with later because I'm a fan of a lot of on their team, but I'm not going to go into detail about it. A lot of mainly the supports on their team I love. All right, but number 16 is the MK Mimikyus. Like I said, I'm pretty sure this MK Mimikyus is Yasha. I think Yasha VGC or something. And I've heard this is a very good player. Looking at his team, it seems like a hyper offensive team, but I think it works really well. I was thinking about it today, and the Whimsicott Chandelure combo is actually super, super nice. They did pick up a very dominant win this week. And I think they approached the matchup really, really efficiently. And so if they keep that up, they're just going to keep going up in the rankings. But unfortunately, they just didn't get a win week 1, and so we can't rank them too high.
Well, I think the big one is I think they moved up 6 or 7 spots from last week, and that's kind of the thing is they had a really convincing win. They moved up a lot of spots. They just happened to have been started off pretty low because of their week 1 loss.
Agreed, absolutely agree. Yeah, very fun team. Hitmontop, OP. Chandelure, awesome. One of my favorite ghosts and fires. Probably my favorite fire. Anyway, let's move on. Glissapod's super cool too. I love that Pokemon. Number 15. South Croydon Soars. I always struggle to say their name for some reason. I have to blink hard and learn relearn how to read words. I thought they have such a weird team where it wants the sun weather. And then you have the Lipard that's the rain setter, ideally, and then the Pheromosa, which is just super fast. And I don't know, but then you have this other Trick Room mode. It's a very versatile team. It seems like a type of team that's hard to really know what they're bringing every week. They had a super dominant win week 1, and then this week they weren't able to squeak it out, but they had a very close match.
Yeah.
So similar to a lot of these one-on-one teams, big win. Week 1, very close loss. It's just a team that's hard to rank in my opinion. So they're sitting here more towards the middle at 15.
Yep.
Anything else to say about this team?
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, with their match, I didn't really know what to take from their match, so I kind of just kept them pretty close when I did my personal ranking to where they were last week, because it's I don't know how this makes me feel about them, because I didn't know what to take away from that match, and and maybe I need to rewatch it a little closer, but I've watched it twice already.
Yep, I agree. It was a strange match to watch, and I don't know, hard to rank. I would say a team that's hard to rank. Number 14 is you. Well, so I guess you can dive into this.
So I actually went up from last week's ranking after my loss, which I think is kind of similar to what we said when we were discussing. I for some reason I feel better about this loss than I did about my win last week. I felt like I played pretty well overall. Like I said, I think I made bad leads. I think I decided to switch off a couple Pokemon too late, and that kind of hurt me. But I think my team kind of showed that I could have beaten a team that I feel like I had a terrible matchup with, having 4 Pokemon that are stab super effective damage against almost every Pokemon on my team, and I think that's why I'm moved up, even though I lost.
I mean, I would agree with that. I think you approached the matchup really well. I think you had a chance to win that one, and just didn't pull it out. But I personally liked your gameplay. So, let's move on. Number 13, Alexandria Arkanines. 0-2 with a -2, so they have had 2 sets that went to game 3, and they didn't pull it out. I think this week it's harder to rank them, because I think they had the prep to win this week. I think they definitely had a chance. I think some misplays cost them. You could say that a little bit of Gumi's hacks cost them, but I think it was more of slight misplay that it just stinks, because and Goomer and I were talking about this, but ideally your prep puts you in a good position to win a match, and you don't have to play 100% to win it. And it feels bad when you feel like you play 90% and that last 10% that you misplay costs you. And I feel like that kind of happened here. This match could have gone either way. Regardless, the Arkanines they're 0-2. They're the highest ranked 0-2 team, I believe. And it's because they were ranked really high week 0. They played 2 of the toughest teams. And it's really hard to rank them at this point, because they've just,
Yeah, so the problem is that they played against 2 of the possible toughest teams. In addition, they could have easily won both of those matches. They were that close of matches. And that's why they're so high. They're above many 1-1 teams, because they, even though they haven't won, they were so close to winning these matches, and the opponents are so good. Again, it's early on, but we expect the opponents to be that good, or so good, that it's hard to kind of not give them some amount of credit, even though they lost both of their games.
I would agree with that. All right, moving on. Welsh Warlords. Really liked their gameplay this week. I think they bring matches down to the wire, and I think they've overall played really well. They lost to the Stolly Gert sets last week, which is good job for Gert.
Yeah.
But the Welsh Warlords, I don't think they're necessarily playing. They played bad against Gert. I think they just lost to the stall that they weren't expecting. And then this week, I think they approached the matchup pretty well. I don't think they. I think they played well and they deserved the win this week. And I think they just look like the type of team that could potentially beat any team in the league. And it's just an all around pretty good team. I'd say pretty deserving of a 12. I think.
Yeah, they had a pretty tough week one, and they bounced back, and this was an incredibly close match. I could definitely see the justification here, but I could also see kind of a very different, rankings. It's really they're a pretty hard team to rank right now because of how close their match was this week and how bad their week one match looked against against the SQs. ISQs. No.
Yep, absolutely.
There's my team I can't pronounce.
Yeah. I think it's hard to really dock the Warlords too much. Like I don't think they have anything that's warranted them being ranked super low. But then again, they're 1-1, and I don't think that they've had any insane plays that have warranted higher. I think they've just. I think, like I said, I think they're deserving of a number 12, and
yeah.
I'm excited to see what else they can pull out. They have a very versatile team that doesn't have any blatant weaknesses. So I like their matches. I like watching their matches. Number 11, Somerville Scraggies pulling up. We can say it. It was a big upset because Otto is one of the historically one of the top players in the league, if not the top. Ndidi, insane. On a team, I think he utilized the Gengar well this week. I think he utilized the Stoutland really well. He did get some. You could say he got some luck. He had some luck, some RNG, some hacks on his side. But you know what? He pulled out the set overall. So props to what he did. He was able to pull it off. And another one of those teams where, he lost week one. He won week two. I don't think his win was like dominant, and I don't think his loss was, really disheartening to him. So he falls in the middle of the pack, and I think it's pretty appropriate.
Yeah, I agree. Like they had a really close loss and then a really close win, and both of the people they played were very good players. So like I can definitely see why they're just around, around the middle, slightly above the middle.
And glad to see him getting back to the roots of the Stoutland Gigalith. I don't know. Yeah, I like those two mods. It seems to be like a little core, a very comfortable core of his, and I like it. So number 10, moving on. This is Rebellion. So Rebellion had I thought he played really well week one. The Blissey did work, and I thought the Arcanine did work. And then week two, he takes a loss. Just some misplay, which... I feel like Lucien knows he goofed up in a couple of those misplays, and he just didn't he didn't respect the Marowak enough. I feel like Lucien knows what he did, and I feel like he could have won that match if he, made some better plays and didn't make those mistakes, but you never know. Respect to his opponent, and I still think he's one of those teams that's a little hard to rank because I feel like the loss this week was pretty bad with he got O2'd with some misplays, but his week one looked really good, so it's hard to rank Rebellion. But I feel like he's kind of that all or nothing kind of player. That player can go either way at any time. What do you think?
Oh yeah, I definitely agree with that. It's I think Rebellion was 4th or 5th, somewhere around there last week, and they definitely lost some spots because they did not have the most impressive game, and they ended up losing them too. But they definitely showed enough promise, and their team looks good enough that we definitely expect them to, continue doing well.
I would agree. I'm glad to see Rebellion got his mascot, the Gudra. Moving on to number 9. Oh, it's my team. God, I love looking at my team. I'm having fun with this team. I'm having a lot of fun. I squeaked it out against the Sableyes. It didn't feel like an amazing matchup. I think I made some prep mistakes, and I think I may have even made some, had some unoptimal leads. I don't think I played or prepped perfectly by any means, but luckily a little bit of RNG and some reads kind of gave me that push over the edge that I needed to take the set 2-0. So I don't think this 2-0 really should have shoved me up much in the power rankings. I don't even think it did.
Oh yeah, you I think you went from 10 to 9.
Yeah.
And which I think is fair. It's like, I agree with you. It's like you had a win, you had a 2-0 win, which is nice. But I definitely don't think that I necessarily feel more confident about your ability to win in the future after this game, as in when you played against me, in which I'm like, oh, I definitely feel like you're going to do amazing after I beat you.
I would agree with that, and I think I'm more towards the middle of the pack, and I think I deserve to be there. I don't think I deserve to be much higher than a 9, so if at all higher. So yeah, I think it's pretty appropriate for me. Let's see. I guess we'll move on to number 8, Trixie Tricos. Previous number 1, they fall, they get upset. They actually got docked quite a bit. They go down 7 places, even though you could say that some RNG was involved in their win. I still think Tyler played well, and he played to his outs and was able to pick up the set. But the Tricos, it's hard to keep them up in like that top 3, top 4, top 5 when they're 1-1. So, I still think I have a super dominant team. We know that Otto's a very, very good player who can approach matchups and doesn't miss a whole lot. But unlike the Kling Klang, which can miss Greer Grind at any moment, never. I don't know. What do you think about this placement?
Yeah, well, yeah, I think basically they're the highest 1-1 team. Every team above them is 2-0. Spoiler alert. And it's I think it's kind of how rankings go in this part of the season. They were the number one ranked team. They lost, but didn't look like a bad loss. It seemed like they definitely could have won and might have even should have won. There's probably an argument they should have won if they didn't get probably a 2% chance on missing multiple things, a flinch, and a crit, and things like that. Probably less than 2% chance of like all these things occurring, and they probably could have won. So maybe we even ranked them too low, but they're 1-1, and every team above them is 2-0, so that's why they're here.
Agreed. And I don't want to take anything against. Away against Tyler's win. I just don't think the Tricos played. I think they didn't play bad, and I don't think they deserve to get docked very much for that loss. And
Tyler's a good team. Like they're the
Absolutely.
11th ranked team, so it's not like they lost to a team that we would consider a bad team. They lost to a good team, and even with the loss, there's an argument that they might have been able to squeak a win with a little bit better luck or a little bit less bad luck.
And the Tricos have a cool logo, and we're biased, and the council's rigged. So, number 7, we're going to the 2-0 teams, Georgia Gurchins. I feel like the top 2 or 3 teams I think deserve to be up there. As far as the other 2-0 teams, it's hard to know where to place them. So this team could easily be considered number 3, or maybe number 1, number 3, number 4, but they're down here at 7 because that's just where the council ended up ranking them. I think they squeaked out a win this week. They looked really good at week 1. They just seem like the type of team that knows how to approach a matchup and adjust. They've had 2 game 3 sets. I like what I've seen, and I don't really have a reason to think that they'd be low. They're 2-0. Yep.
Yeah, I just need to see more from them. That's kind of my thing. Is like they've done really well so far, but every time I watch their match, I'm just like I don't know. I'm just like I want to see more to see because a lot of things end up like I said, there's a lot of dramatic changes in positioning or who's advantaged in their games, and it's I don't know if this is randomness or if this is very skill intensive or if these are hard reads, and I kind of just need to. I just want to see them more to get a better view of them personally.
I would totally agree. It's only week 2. The power rankings. We could be assessing things totally wrong, but it's early on. New players early in the season. We don't know. And like I said with their match, if they foresaw some of those end games and they knew they had it in the bag, on them, that's amazing. That's top tier play. If it just happened to work out for them, then I mean, that's still a good job for the win. But I think if they're strategizing and pulling out these wins, these close wins effectively and meaningfully, I think that I think they deserve more credit, I guess.
I mean, maybe it's the Gurchin's videos don't have them explaining their
True.
thought process. Maybe that's the problem, and that's why we are like so confused or in some of these situations.
Yeah.
And so if you're listening, please add commentary to your video, and we might be able to rank you a lot higher.
That's true. Commentary uncovers a lot. It makes it easier to rank people because you can see their thought process. Kind of like the Infernapes. Like I thought they had a much less bad of a loss this week because of how I heard their thought process was. And the Gurchin's videos always confuse me because I'm an ADD idiot, and I sometimes the turns just blend together because he skips all of the choosing of the move. So I'm like, wait, that Pokemon already attacked this turn. Why is it attacking again? Did I miss something? Blah, blah, blah. And then I get lost and, maybe other people.
I've definitely had that happen once or twice when I was watching their videos.
Yeah, I got to pay attention more. So number 6, we've got the Pogging Porygons, another new team to the league, I believe. They're Pogging. They're number 6 and they're 2-0. Like I said, extremely strong Firewater Grass Core. Something that some people are very, very big on, and I think they have a very strong one. They've looked really good. They had a pretty nice win over Rebellion this week. They just didn't prep enough for the Marowak. Pogging Porygons probably understood the matchup, used the Marowak effectively, and honestly, just well played. We have, they're 2-0. Good job.
Yeah, I agree. I think they played well this week. They had a good week, a good win last week, and it was very close last week, and this week they kind of just showed how they can be very dominating. Even though it wasn't particularly close, but they kind of sealed up any outs that Rebellion has whenever they gave them an out, kind of a pathway to victory.
Agreed. I don't think they had to squeak it out. They felt like in pretty decent position throughout the matches. Another team I would agree. I just want to see more from. It's hard to rank them super confidently just because I haven't seen enough from them. But I think they're a very good team. They're 2-0, and yeah, keep it up. Number 5, Beantown Barnacles. The Chicken Nugget Cooler Light Bulb Squad. They are looking good. They have a scary team. They've been able, they're 2-0. They pulled out some good wins, even at the game 2 disadvantage this week. They were still able to clutch it out. I think their team is just really hard to approach. They've got half their team's just hard, annoying and hard to deal with, like the Lurantis and the Weezing, and maybe even the Obstagoon. But then the other half, they have these combos you can use with the electric terrain. They have redirection, and they have a lot of offense that they can utilize at given moments. So a lot of tools on this team. I think they deserve to be up here, and I'm not surprised.
Yeah. No, I think I've been very impressed with their prep so far. I think that they've identified weaknesses in their opponent's team and brought very good Pokemon both of their first 2 weeks. And I think that is where I'm impressed with their strengths so far. And I just like to, continue seeing that. And I'm sure if they continue doing that, they're definitely going to be at the very top of this list.
I would agree. I think they know how to approach a matchup and bring tech that'll be really useful. Not just weird and offsetting, but very useful. So yeah, good luck in future matches and chicken nuggets. Old English Ice Cube. I think I want to. This is a team I'm excited to talk about. Just in the couple of minutes we have. I think this team was severely underrated in the beginning of the season. And I sort of agreed with the week 0 power rankings. I want to say they were 9 or 10. If they were 9 or 10 week 0, I think they were severely underrated and I agreed at first, but now seeing how the team works together and seeing what they can do and the versatility in this team, I think this team is really, really good. And I think Gert has utilized it well. I don't see any reason to put this team lower than 4. This team could also be number 1. There's a conversation where Gert is number 1 because he's played phenomenally. aside from the unexpected encore this week, I mean, game one, he looked really good. I think you almost squeaked it out against him in an unfavorable matchup. So honestly, props to you, Beastista. But Gert was able to squeak it out, and I think he has a tough team to get through in a best of three because he has a lot of tools that you can utilize.
Definitely think that they were very good, and I think some people actually voted. I think at least one person picked them as number one in our ranking. But I think, like I said, I think I'm the reason why they're not number one. Honestly, and I think I had such a close match with them that it's like either I need to be a lot higher, or they need to be, not. They need to be closer to like 4 or 5 rather than one. And the answer we'll see hopefully soon enough, and either I do really well hopefully soon, or they yeah, and we can see like both of us get really high, or maybe they'll stay around here. We'll see.
We will see. Love to see the Haunter, the Skarmory, the Cordilli, both all some weird mons that I love seeing do well. So let's move on. Number 3, the Brisbane Blazekins. Really good match this week. I think from watching their videos, it's clear that they understand how to get out of certain situations. They assess every turn. They prep for certain things. I'm getting to know the Blazekins more, like how they prep, how they play. Not saying that I can predict what they bring, but I'm starting to understand that this player is very good and can be a top player, in any league. So I think they have a lot of tools on their team, and I just like their prep and play all around. I honestly, that's it. I like what they're doing.
Yeah, no, I personally ranked them very high. I last week, and I think this week they're still good. Or I think they realized their win condition against the Manitans, realizing that they can kind of get into a position where they can disregard the Hippowdon and just sweep it up with the Rotom in the back, because they realized very early on that the Rotom was immune to the Hippowdon. And they definitely played to that end game. Obviously, game 2 was a little bit awkward, but they did realize that very well and played to it perfectly, minus feeling the need to click their lowest PP move specifically.
Agreed. Yeah, it was a weird match. But anyways, I still agree with the number 3 spot. I think it's fairly deserving of what they are, and they have a tough team. So regardless of how they're playing, I think they've got just a tough team to go up against. So let's move on to number 2. So we got 2 teams left. Number 2 is the Rolled Gold Pretzels. I'm just gonna. So the Pretzels and the next team were actually tied for first, but because the Pretzels have a lesser differential, they only have +3. Our next team is a +4. We rank them at 2. Maybe they're number 2. You could consider them tied at number 1 as far as the rankings go. It doesn't matter. Regardless, they're a top team. They looked really good. I think the Garchomp set was really weird, but I think it worked. And avoiding the Poltergeist of I know that Dan misplayed and did that Poltergeist into the Garchomp, but just having the Grassy Seed just make you so bulky, and I think it lives it lives an Icicle Crash then with that. I think it was a really cool set, and I know Gumi was probably hyped about it, but I think Gumi didn't play perfectly this week, but he played really well. He beat the Arkanines, which are a very tough team in my opinion, and I don't know, it's 2-0 at a +3. It's hard to say he's not a top team.
Well, yeah, I think the big thing why the Pretzels are so high this week is because I think that in team prep they actually were that the Arcanines actually beat them, but they were able to actually get the win even though they lost in team prep, and that shows a combination of impressiveness in their team and their skill. And I think that's why they're as high as they are, is because, obviously every week I don't think anyone can win every week in team prep, but it takes, impressive skill in team, your team overall, or your playing to get wins when you are clearly out prepped.
Yep, and I like how Gumi approached the matchups. Dan said he was very scared of the Aggron. What does Gumi do? Turn game one, throws up the Aggron right away. Like he kind of knows what's threatening, and even though like we said, even if he doesn't play or prep perfectly every week, he's always going to bring something that's at least pretty damn good. So, props to the Pretzels. I think they deserve to be up here. And our number one team is our Bolton Bashers. They're 2-0, +4 differential. Most of us ranked Goomer number one. I think there's a conversation where other people could be number one, but for this week, it's Goomer. There's, like I said, there's a conversation for other people to be knocked down a few, or put up in number one instead of Goomer, but it's hard to make a hard argument that Goomer's not number one, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah, I think the big one is they were ranked number 2 last week. The number 1 team lost, and so it seems very
exactly
and even though they, even though they, beat a team that you could consider as a low ranked team, all the other teams around them had things that made them not feel like they should have jumped to Goomer. So the second team had a very close 2-1 game, and so it was kind of maybe they shouldn't go up. The ranked 3 team had that awkward situation where the slack off could have get them. The game 4 team had a single turn in which I could have beat them, and so it's hard to rank any of those other teams to jump them because all the games were very close in the top 4.
I would agree. I think it was very hard to this week was hard to rank. And I know we've only had 2 weeks, but I expect this is going to be one of the harder weeks to rank. Moving forward.
Yeah.
I don't think weeks in the future will be as hard. But just looking at the Bashers team too, I think we forgot to mention this last week, but I want to talk about something. Goomer has 2 water Pokemon, Gyarados and Swampert, and I forgot to mention this because it's really interesting. Both of them have double weaknesses. Now, water's only weak to electric and grass, and the Swampert's double weak to grass, while the Gyarados is double weak to electric. But then again, the Swampert is immune to electric, and the Gyarados is only taking neutral damage from grass. So he can kind of utilize those water Pokemon how he wants, assess them in a matchup, and then, if it's Swampert's better into electric, Gyarados is better into grass. I think it's a really interesting combo, and I think this just looks like a team that's just hard to approach. I really like the Galarian Zapdos. I think, I know, the play has been good. Team's really good. Good job for being number 1 this week, I guess. Anything else about this team?
No, I think that's about all. Like I said, they played well, and we'll see how long they can keep it up, because so far our week 0 and 1 number ones have dropped.
True, and Heatmore OP. He's got the Heatmore, so I'm not surprised he's number 1. So, best fire type, most likely. So, do we have any more slides? We do. Here it is. You can see the top 24 over here. If you want to look at them in the whole. So yay, we got the top 24 right here. If you're up top, try to keep on winning. Keep your spot. If you're down low, don't get discouraged. Get some wins. Get some upsets. Move up in the power rankings. I personally don't mind being ranked low because people underestimate me, and then it gives me an advantage. So we'll see. Here's your top 24. Anything else? I think it's all we have. Is that it?
No. Thanks for watching, y'all.
Yeah, thanks for watching, y'all. We're trying to shorten these up, but then again, we don't want to miss out on any interesting plays, and we want to comment on things, and yep. But anyway, good luck to everybody in week 3, and we'll be back with another Power Rankings video when the time comes.